all over.
I mean, it's not always like that on Japanese sets.
Tell me about Japanese sets.
Yeah, it can be complicated.
Because I've heard a thing or two.
Yeah.
And it's usually not good things. Not from you, I'm talking about other
It's a
people.
lot of hard work, yeah.
Yeah.
And
people talk about 16-hour days, dictatorial directors, everybody's expected to be completely overworked and half diseased by the end of it.
and eating bentos all day.
Oh my, okay.
Malnourished.
Malnourished.
And yeah.
What was your experience?
I've had a broad set of experiences. So I've worked on sets where I'm the only non-Japanese person. And I've also worked on sets here in Japan where it's all foreign people.
Okay, how is it? Let's talk about the first one. How is
Yeah.
it being a only non-Japanese person on a film set here?
I mean, it's a little, at least right now, it can feel a bit nerve-wracking as you're going into something because...
So this podcast is about like everything.
All right, great.
So
Yeah,
it's like
niche.
the opposite of a niche. So that's kind of like the hook
That's what they say. You got
of
to
this
really
podcast.
niche down if you want to success.
You're right, yeah. I'm kind of going the opposite way.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
think that I'm going to succeed? You do have
Yeah.
a couple of YouTube channels, which we're
Yes.
going to link below.
Thank you.
So with your
We've
extensive
started
experience...
Come on, can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah, of course. What do you think? Do I have a chance?
No, but it's like a gamble anyways. It's like winning the lottery. Just, you got to keep on playing. If you don't play, you don't win, right?
That's not what I was hoping to hear. But okay, that's okay.
I think so.
Davey, did we meet on a film? No, we didn't meet on a film set.
No, maybe through Elves, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To a film meetup.
Did you just
But then
show up
we
one day?
shot a film. I mean, it wasn't our film.
Yeah.
It's still not out.
Yeah.
But we worked on a film. And I have to, I
a big
usually,
film, yeah.
I shit on my friends.
Yeah.
I love to do that.
Yeah.
Because in Eastern Europe, that's how you show love to your friends.
Yeah.
So when we're not doing this, I'm trying to be really kind of sassy to you. But I have to say I was kind of really impressed how much of a Renaissance man you were on that set.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
You knew like a lot of technical shit from different departments.
Yeah,
Even
okay,
though you're
well-
like 10 years younger than me.
Oh, jeez.
Now
That's
I want
why
to start shitting on you again.
I need the hat. We
Yeah.
need to, we need to bring it a little bit closer together, I think. But
But how come?
no, I think through YouTube and other interests, that you just have to, be self-sufficient a little bit. You got to learn all the little parts of the job. But since I've always been a photographer, someone interested in like aesthetics and design, especially in the 2D space, that's more of my focus. But doing YouTube, you have to have a little bit of knowledge on everything.
Okay, how the fuck did you become a filmmaker in Japan?
I don't know.
That's not like you always wanted to be a filmmaker in Japan. You
Not
probably
really.
because you're from the
Well,
States.
maybe-
He's from the States.
Yeah.
And
If you couldn't tell. But
and
most people think I'm
most people are
Canadian,
like,
though. But
yeah. Canada? Is that the 51st state of 52nd?
I don't want to say anything incriminating, but we'll see how things go.
If you're American, I imagine usually probably people want to be a filmmaker in America
Yeah, actually,
because of Hollywood.
I don't think that I've talked to you about this, maybe.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up necessarily wanting to be a filmmaker or in the film space.
I just wanted to be famous.
Yeah, exactly.
Same.
There's easier ways to do so. But I actually first moved to Japan to learn how to draw manga. And
No
I-
way!
Yeah.
What?
So I have
I don't
illustrations
know.
as well.
I mean, I saw it on your videos, but I thought that's like
But
part of graphic design or something.
yeah, like I originally got started with kind of graphic design because that was my only option back in 2007, 8 in the States. It's not like there's a lot of programs for
Manga artists.
Yeah. And of course now you have a little bit more kind of flexibility, different programs, but maybe not anything too dedicated to manga itself. But at that time, I decided I wanted to move to Japan to learn how to draw traditional manga. And I came here and I studied Japanese for a year and then went to a vocational school for, the traditional manga style.
Didn't know you were such a geek.
Yeah. But I think, there's a lot of similarities as well between images and comics because you're telling stories in similar ways maybe. The thing about comics is there's a lot of stuff that happens in between the frames, whereas in movies you tend to show a lot more.
So I just watched the documentary. I was in an interview with Robert Rodriguez,
Yeah.
how he made Sin City.
Yeah.
And he went to Frank Miller,
Yeah.
and he was like, Frank Miller was like, I don't know anything about movies. And Rodriguez was like, no, you're a filmmaker. Like, the way you're because he's also drawing,
Yeah.
Frank.
Yeah.
So he's like, you're already choosing the shots, you're already choosing how to tell the story.
Exactly.
It's basically
Well, I mean, if you
almost
think
the
about,
same.
you're putting similar restrictions. You have a frame.
Yeah.
It's more loose. You're not stuck to like one aspect ratio, but it's about the composition of that. And also one thing that's interesting that I've always found, deep focus, meaning the opposite of what you tend to see today, where everything's out of focus in the background. That more depth of field, everything's in focus style that you see in like classic movies, is what I prefer. And I think it comes from
where you can see everything.
where you can see everything.
What do you think of this? Our
mean,
shot
it's-
right now.
Technology's come a long way. That you're able to blur out the background with something like this, but still you want to, try to compose it in a way that makes sense, right? At least like something that's pleasing. And I think getting started and having a lot of experience with comics helped me kind of build a fundamental understanding of composition in a lot of different aspect ratios.
Wait, so when you arrived to Japan, you actually enrolled into manga school?
It took about a year of me studying Japanese, and then I went to the school.
I had no idea. You're a man of mystery.
Yep.
Skeletons are falling out of the closet. I wonder what else is going to fall out.
Yeah, it's. I think
During
we've,
this conversation.
we've both lived many lives, But
Okay, let's keep talking about film.
then, when I was going to that school, or even before that, actually, just moving to Japan, it was 2012 when I first moved here. It was still kind of like something that wasn't as common. Like nowadays, I think it's a little bit easier, or at least it's a little bit more kind of publicized in a way. But at the time, people weren't just like putting out their lives completely like they are now. So I thought I wanted to start to document my life here. Everything's so new, everything is so interesting. So I picked up a camera, not for the first time necessarily, but for the first time to do it seriously. And then went down a rabbit hole. So I came out the other end of my stay here being more interested in photography than manga.
Did you finish the school?
Yeah, I finished the school.
So you know how to make a manga?
Yeah.
No shit.
And there's also a lot of similarities too that I think a lot of people think, you just draw or whatever and it happens. But just like a film, I mean, you want to have the skeleton of the story. You want to have a structure to your...
Wait, basic question,
Yeah.
because I know nothing about mangas. I never read
Yeah.
them. You have to be the story person and the drawing person. It's not like Western
No, not
comics where they
always.
have like a writer
Yeah,
who's separate from.
but it's kind of a not gray area, but there's definitely comics where you have the writer and then you have the artist and they're collaborating. But a lot of times you have the creator is also the main artist, but then they have assistants that are working on the background, they're filling in the details and all that. Because if you think about the publishing schedule, they need to do, like whatever, 10, 15, 20 pages in a week, which is a lot. Maybe 10 might be short, it's like
Fuck me.
15. So they tend to have at least like one or two assistants, even on a smaller... I was actually a manga assistant as well, but not for Japanese publishing company. It was something more international. But yeah, I've done that type of work as well.
So
And
these
it's very
guys,
tough.
do they sometimes... What's that Japanese term again, where you die while working?
Yeah, I forget the term, but
Hiro or something.
yeah.
You know.
Hiro is like just being tired, like
Yeah.
overworked.
Anyway,
But-
these guys probably, guys and girls,
Yeah.
they don't have a life.
and I think...
I mean, if you have to come up with 15... I went to screenwriting school, and our mentor was like, you need to bring me 5 pages every week. And I was like, I don't have a life anymore. And then I just wrote 5 pages, 25 minutes
and
before class.
imagine
And
you have to
and imagine you have to
draw
like,
it.
Yeah. Plus, people are actually reading it, so you can't just like turn in
Well,
dog
also
shit
the thing that's
stuff.
the most interesting is that it's kind of similar to YouTube. I mean, everything's kind of coming full circle now that I'm talking about it. But the YouTube production schedule tends to be like, all right, it's Monday, so I got to come up with an idea so that by Sunday it's published, and that's what manga is. Whereas a movie, you tend to like spend a lot of time in pre-production, and then you have like a sprint where you're like working really hard for like 2 weeks or a month or 3 months or whatever the case, and then you come out the other side and you have like a long break where you're like kind of incubating a new idea. But like manga and YouTube, it's like consistent, every week. So it's a different way of storytelling as well, right?
So was part of you turning to filmmaking instead of manga, was it like, okay, this is a shitty way to lead your life because you're just working so hard? Because if you do films, whatever you might think of it, at least you're hanging out on set.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely, they both require a lot of hard work and long days like we were talking about and we've experienced, but there's a little bit more like camaraderie and...
Yes.
Yeah. And good memories on set, at least, whereas I think I never worked in the same room, but there's apparently,
But when you were a manga assistant, what does that look like?
No, I got sent files.
Oh, that's even more depressing.
So,
It's not like a little writer's room and everybody's
unfortunately.
high-fiving each other
But
when a great
there are
idea
places
comes
where, they rent out an apartment or whatever and they set up the desks and they do it there. And like even sleep there and all that. So I think actually...
Ugh.
I started to look at like my options as a illustrator and manga artist, and I was like, I don't know, it's maybe not the best way to try to make a living, and start to take other art forms more seriously as like a job. I still drew a lot for fun. And also for YouTube, I mean, in a lot of ways, YouTube has also been an experiment in seeing how I can continuously create things and supplement my income of regular jobs with these like mini little like documentaries or ideas. Because if not, I feel like I wouldn't really put my energy into something more seriously.
Yeah, your tentacles seem to be sprawling into every little corner of media production here in Japan.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you're going to be... I wanted to think of a name of like a big mogul, but I can't think of someone who's not like disgraced with sexual offenses and stuff right now.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm rather not going to say it.
But no, I've even done design here.
Huh?
I've done design and I've done other stuff here.
And?
Yeah, I mean, well, like we were talking about earlier as well, that design can be a little bit more kind of cushy, but then you don't get that experience on set, It's very much like being at home, just like
That's the
chipping
best
away
part
at
of
something.
filmmaking, isn't it? That you're hanging out every day and complaining about stupid shit that you're going to laugh about like in 6 months when it's all over.
I mean, it's not always like that on Japanese sets.
Tell me
But-
about Japanese sets.
Yeah, it can be complicated.
Because I've heard a thing or two.
Yeah.
And it's usually not good things. Not from you, I'm talking about other
It's a
people.
lot of hard work, yeah.
Yeah.
And
People talk about 16-hour days, dictatorial directors, everybody's expected to be completely overworked and half diseased by the end of it.
and eating bentos all day.
Oh my, okay.
Malnourished.
Yeah, malnourished.
And yeah,
What was
I
your
mean,
experience?
I've had a broad set of experiences. So I've worked on sets where I'm the only non-Japanese person. And I've also worked on sets here in Japan where it's all foreign people.
Okay, how is it? Let's talk about the first one. How is
Yeah.
it being a only non-Japanese person on a film set here?
I mean, it's a little, at least right now, it can feel a bit nerve-wracking as you're going into something because you're like, well, you're kind of starting with a little bit behind, no matter how you look at it, right? That no matter how good your language skills are, no matter how experienced you are, for example, like I've lived here on and off for like 8 years. I've tried to study Japanese for a total of maybe like 12 years or whatever. But a 12-year-old is only in like middle school, right? Compared to if you're working even with like an 18-year-old who has lived here their whole life, at least they're better at.
Yeah, but you don't have a brain of a 12-year-old.
No. But it's like
Also, to be fair, Japanese people have said that your Japanese is better than Japanese people's
I
Japanese.
hope so. But
Anyway, carry on.
no, I mean, it's like when you try to, also after on hour 16, when you're searching for the right word,
I see.
So I get a little bit nervous about that in the sense that on hour 16, someone else can perform if they've lived here their whole life, you know, because it's very second nature. For me, it takes a little bit more effort to begin with, in a sense. But thankfully, I've been able to work with a lot of people that are understanding or see something at least of value.
But wait a second. Aren't people just like insanely impressed that when you come to the set, your Japanese is so good for foreigner and also you know your shit and all that stuff?
Sometimes, but also some people don't really care.
Because I'm getting compliments for my shitty Japanese.
Yeah.
I've been told that they're not sincere all the time, like Jozu Nihongo stuff.
Well, the thing
but you know,
the thing I've always felt here, and again, everyone's experience is very different, especially when it comes to Japan. The first thing that I kind of really learned, so I moved here when I was 17, and the first thing that people try to tell you is about how Japan is, like at a school or when you like start to meet people that have lived here. They're like, let me tell you how it is. And I heard from like 6 different people, 6 completely different answers to that, prompt. So I realized that everyone's experience is very unique, and you have to like live here. Of course, there's some commonalities, but no, I found on set that some people are impressed, but also you're there for a job and you need to perform. So it doesn't matter, how good or bad it is, as long as you can accomplish that job, right? And yeah, some people don't care at all. So that makes it more difficult. And some people are a little bit more understanding. So when inevitably something comes up, it's not like an argument. It's like, okay, let's try to get on the same page. Because I think filmmaking can be a team sport.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. But also when you have a team sport, the dynamic between people is very important, right? That if you're all kind of like going in the same direction, you can accomplish something, greater than any one person can make. But when you're all trying to hold the ball at the same time, or when you're all trying to like go in different directions, then you can cause a lot of, you could get a lot of friction.
I watched a documentary about how Sofia Coppola made Lost in Translation here in Japan. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And of course, the crew was kind of mixed.
Yeah.
Half American, half Japanese. And there's some really interesting stories that they tell. For example, that when they went over the allotted time at a certain location, the fixer just quit, the Japanese fixer. Because it was like, this was not the deal. I have to quit now. This is a bit testy for me. And then all the people that he brought also quit.
Yeah.
Because of he brought them on.
Yeah.
And the Americans were really shocked. They're like, can't we just like pay for 15 extra minutes or something?
Yeah.
That was like
20,
25 years ago.
I don't know, because...
But is it still kind of similar, these moments where you have to learn not just the nature of the craft, but the culture around it as well?
Yeah, I mean, even one of the hardest things is that the language of filmmaking, especially we were talking earlier about how like camera and lighting and sound can be a trade, but part of that trade is like learning the lingo. And the words that you would use here are not the same words that you would use like in the States or even in Europe. And then even within a certain group of people, like a certain company or, a team, they use different words even. So they might ask you for like a certain type of clamp or something, and you have no idea what they're asking for, even though you know what that clamp is, because they just have like a nickname for it or whatever.
And when you ask, is it a problem?
No, you have to be honest too. Like I've learned that...
you roll onto set and you're like, I'm sorry, I don't know all the words for clamp in Japanese. Can you take it easy on me?
I just try to be open and honest, because if not, you're going to get caught up in something that...
Yeah.
Like, it's better just to be honest and say, I'm sorry, I don't know, and have it explained to you, than bring something that's like not the thing, right?
And go back 15 more times and fuck up the entire...
Exactly. And that's why I'm like deathly afraid of, But No, I mean, people have been very nice to me for the most part. And there's a group of people that I tend to work with. Something that's helped me is that, like, understanding a lot of kind of norms and culture here, but also feeling more like not associated with it, but like where I'm from, it's easy for people to be late or whatever.
Are you from the Balkans?
Yeah, we're all lots of commonalities, right? And so being punctual, being like respectful, are things that like I've kind of always associated myself with. So that's made it easier to then transition into working here. Whereas I think if maybe you're used to, I mean, anyways, on a film set, you always want to be punctual, no matter where you are, but some places more so than others, maybe.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen the film The Room from Wiseau?
Yeah.
There's also a book called The Disaster Artist, and they made a film afterwards.
Yeah.
And they made that movie, pretty successful movie. And apparently he was sometimes like 4 to 8 hours late. So I don't know.
All kinds,
Maybe,
right?
all kinds. It's true it was shot in the States, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, but I think a lot of people are much more I mean, you know, it's big productions in the States.
It's a joke. Jesus, taking everything so literally. Oh,
jeez.
My God.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Well, what was the question?
I don't know.
Just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I'm rethinking my whole life.
No, but do you have like a horror story from a film set here?
Yeah, so my favorite one to tell now in retrospect, because it's kind of interesting. At the time, it was not, you know. But
it's one of those things that was deeply traumatic, but then
yeah.
with time it becomes funny.
That when I first moved here in 2020, I was looking for work, and there's this site.
Wait, 2020? You've been here for 10 years, no?
No, I mean like when I first moved here
for good.
This time,
I see.
for good, or you know.
Because you've been coming and going.
Yeah. My most recent, first coming here, but my most recent stint here, right? There's a website called Cinema Planners where
for freelancers.
Yeah, well, for freelance filmmaking, that they post, like people post jobs, they post like looking for actors, you know, different collaborators and stuff like that. So I was on there looking for work, and I sent out a bunch of emails. I got different job opportunities and interviews and whatever.
As a what?
At that point, actually,
Camera.
Well,
Man.
this is part of the story though, is that like I just wanted an in, because I had done a lot of work here for like musicians, but music and commercials and film and like movies, you know, kind of there's some similarities, and I was able to build up experience, but there's also a lot of differences, and the circles, the communities, the companies are all different. So I just wanted an in, and maybe it's giving away a little bit about the punchline, but anyways, I go on a location scout. Like I had an interview. The people were like, yeah, you know, we want to give you a shot or whatever. And I was super excited. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go do a location scout. Do you want to come with us? It's not,
for a what? Movie? Or?
For a short film.
I see.
And they're like, you don't have to. But I was like, no, you know, I want to go. I want to like present like I'm trying my best. And so I take my camera and I'm talking with the DP, and I'm taking reference photos and like asking all these questions about what camera we're going to use and like what they're thinking or whatever. And we get home at night to like the base. And so I sit down with like some of the people there, and we're drinking and eating. And one of the production people is like, hey, you got to help us out or whatever. So sorry, you know, go help them out.
Have them out with what?
Trash or whatever, you
know.
And again, this is like one of my first times trying to be part of a film set, like movie set here, because I've worked music videos and other like commercials and also independent short films, but this was a little bit different. And help them out, go back, whatever, seems fine. But on the way back on the car, bus, or whatever, it was like really kind of like weird. Also, to backtrack a little bit. So first time here to be on a proper film set, and the producer doesn't tell me anything. The guy that interviewed me doesn't help me out with anything. And then I hear in the background that one of the people was like, oh, isn't it really like annoying when people show up and they don't like tell you what their role is or whatever? Like I thought I heard someone say something along those lines. It's like, oh, okay, maybe they're talking about me or whatever. But I'm trying to feel it out. I don't really know.
I have no idea where this is going, but keep going.
Yeah, so on the way, the next day, it was only one night. On the way back, the tension in the bus is like kind of weird, you know, like people are not really like talking with me. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I think I was like, you know, writing something or whatever. And I remember so distinctly, like one of the production people, when they dropped me off at Shinjuku, was like, all right, bye. And like had a real like look on his face.
Disgusted look.
No. He looked like he was like sorry for me. And I was like, that's kind of weird. And then like a few hours later, I got an email from the producer being like, oh, you know, we interviewed you and we thought you were like going to be a good fit, but then it just didn't work out for production. And then I'm like, for production? Shit, I thought I was in the camera department. Like, so at that time, because I was just trying to get into like any work, I had also replied to people that were looking for production staff, like PAs and stuff like that. But I had sent out so many emails.
That you forgot.
So many, yeah. And
what this was.
And like it's a location scout, so it's got to be
camera.
Yeah. So I'm talking with the DP.
So when you were there, you were just like buzzing around the camera guys.
Yeah, and also I don't even know. No, it was only like one.
And it
was only the DP.
Stuck with him.
Yeah, and like I mostly talked with him, and like other people as well. But I was like trying to get a feel for like, you know, what kind of person he is, what equipment we're going to be using, all of that. And yeah, I totally misread everything. But now I know that like when you show up on a Japanese set, which this is not really the case that I've heard of or experienced anywhere else, is like you tend to say, oh, I'm this person from this department.
You introduce yourself on the set when you show up.
When you meet someone, you're like, I'm, you know, David from the camera department. And the producer didn't tell me any of that. He didn't introduce me either, because oftentimes...
if he would have introduced you, like, this is David, he's going to be the PA today, you would have been like, shit.
Exactly.
It's not the camera
Exactly.
department.
It would have been solved. Or if I had also said, I'm David from the camera department, they would have said, no, you're David from the, you know, production or whatever. So that's kind of like a funny story in retrospect. But also, a lot of times, if I'm an assistant, then the DP will say, this is David, you know, our assistant camera or whatever. So...
Because that doesn't happen usually in the West.
No, I mean, you're usually kind of just in your own...
Figuring it out quickly,
like, yeah. You know, you're in your own department, and you might interact with people, but it's not really important. Like, even here, it's not that important. I think it's more like a customary thing, you know? But man, some of those, like the guy looking at me and like saying bye, that image is like seared into my brain.
Okay.
Because I
thought there's going to be something like, yeah, we liked you, but use deodorant or some like really bad, like awkward.
I don't know.
That wasn't that bad.
But
how could they even
in the summer
know
things
that,
get bad? So
yeah,
even if
summer,
you have deodorant, I mean,
Jesus. But how could they have known that? Well, what did you do wrong?
I mean,
you did everything they asked you to.
Yeah, but
so how did they know? Like, oh, he's really like around the camera department, and he's not helping us out. Like,
I wasn't being proactive. Like, I
see.
Because you know, if you're a PA, you're like,
you gotta be like,
what can I do?
Yeah.
You know. But I mean, that's in a way what I was trying to do with the camera, with the DP. I was like, you know, what can I do? Like, seeing what he's talking about, taking pictures of what he's talking about, you know. Because I just had it in my mind.
You fucked up.
I did, yeah. No, and it's my fault because if I had... But it's kind of, it was a good lesson because it's kind of twofold, where I'm like, I should have done a lot more due diligence in like confirming what it was that I was signing up for.
Yeah, but you applied to like 500 companies, of course.
But then also, they should have said if they said anything during the day,
you'd have picked up on
anything. Other than that one like guy being kind of like, oh, people should introduce themselves. But that's not like a hint. You know, if he had said, oh, these production people, don't introduce themselves, I would have been like, oh, wait, that's right. I had signed up for like one production job.
How did you get your start here then? Like a proper start? Because you have a bunch of people that you work with now, you're a freelancer, you know a lot of people in the business.
Yeah, it's just
you're going to do some, you already did some proper job for the telly here and stuff like this, on feature films as well.
Like, it just starts with one group, and then that kind of expands out, and you find yourself...
Yeah, but how do you find the group?
Like I said, I got started with music videos. So before that, I was taking photos.
Just putting yourself out there.
No,
I'm talking about the very first steps.
The very first steps?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time.
You don't have Alzheimer's, it's fine.
Early onset. But...
For people who are coming here.
Yeah.
And they're...
Well, you should check out the English language film school, where I teach a class on cinematography, and we also do meetups once a month.
I think a dog is being killed behind me.
I hope you hear that.
Okay, sorry,
Last
go ahead.
Monday of every month, you can sign up on Meetup. We do it at Blink in Roppongi, last Monday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Networking, that's where we met as well. But, I mean, that's a fantastic place to at least meet people. But
then you start to get little gigs here and there.
Yeah, like even my website hasn't been updated in years because I just get word of mouth. Like, it always ends up that someone can't do something, so then they're like, who do you know? And then they recommend me for whatever reason, and I'm flattered and honored most of the time when it's like a Japanese person that does that, because I'm sure there's plenty of other great people. Or maybe, they're like, yeah, the American will do it because Japanese people are like, we don't want to we don't want to work for this amount of money or whatever, right? But
speaking of which,
yeah,
the money being offered for a lot of stuff here in films is a bit shocking.
Yeah,
I'm from Eastern Europe, so I'm not speaking as somebody from Beverly Hills here, but I did a little bit of a couple of acting gigs here and there. Other stuff as well. It's really the salary, the pay is really
But
low.
even in general, the pay here hasn't changed in like 20 years or something like that. Like,
so if you want to come here and become a filmmaker, you're not going to end up like Elon Musk.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in most places you're not, but here, especially now, as things are with the yen being quite weak in the economy, it doesn't look good. But I think that you can definitely make a living doing it.
Are you making a living? I mean, how's that going?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that's one thing that video production affords over illustration. In a way, what's nice about illustration that I found was that you can make a lot of money very quickly if you're like fast and have a system around it and have a lot of clients. But there's just not as many consistent jobs, I think. Whereas with film, if you can operate the camera, if you can do these different kind of trades on set, there's always something that's necessary.
And do you think the business is more open to foreigners now? Film business?
I hope it's becoming, and I mean, I hope that I can be a part of that too. That I was just talking with my wife as well, that you talked with, and about some jobs in the near future, and I was like, hopefully it starts to open up some doors, because sometimes people do tell me like, you're the first non-Japanese person I've ever seen on set, other than maybe actors, But it's very rare for the crew to be non-Japanese, and especially for like the kind of middle positions, because sometimes you have like a foreign DP or a foreign director that come in, and they're specifically chosen for their portfolio, for their skills, for their talent, whatever it might be. But when it comes to assistant camera, which is what I do for the most part, you have to be here on a visa that lets you work in something other than like teaching or whatever. So that already reduces, even if you could do it, it really reduces the circle of people. And then you have to speak enough Japanese and have enough skills to be able to do it. So, the pool is smaller and smaller, but I hope I can open it up a little bit more, because there are a lot of very talented people that can do the job. So, and there is a kind of I'll say vibrant film, not community, but
Scene.
yeah,
A bit tiny though, since Tokyo is so huge. I was expecting when I moved in that the
Yeah.
international filmmaking scene would be a bit bigger, but it is there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people
yeah.
are really nice and cool.
people want
Yeah.
to do cool stuff. People want to come here and do that kind of work. So I hope that, I don't know what just because my visa status is different, being married and all, but like, I hope people can come here and be camera assistant, lighting assistant, and get a consistent visa for that in the future, you know? Because as is, I don't know if that's really an option, unless you already live here.
Let's talk about YouTube.
Yeah. Oh.
My
Do you have,
algo
so it's,
is
we have
how long have we been talking about? 30
Yeah.
minutes. We got time.
do you have another like 2 hours to talk about YouTube?
Yes. This is freeform.
All right.
Don't worry about a thing.
Are you gonna put
You
like
want another
chapters?
Starbucks coffee, you dirty
Maybe.
American?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm still working on this one.
My algo is riddled with foreign influencers in Japan.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what's happening. It's exploding now.
Mine is not.
And
though.
most of the videos have the title of "Do Japanese people want to have sex with foreigners?" or something like this.
Yeah. Very,
I mean, it's nuts.
catchy
Even when
or whatever.
if you're walking around,
Yeah. Yeah. You
you
see a lot of
just-
people like. Yeah.
I mean, in front of all the landmarks, people
Yeah.
are just like filming the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know it was kind of cute a couple of years ago before I moved to Japan. I was following a couple of people who were living in Japan and made like an effort to make videos. But now I mean, this is going to add to the pile.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. Make no mistake. This is
Yeah.
part of the problem.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like, I don't know, just some sort of feels like pollution a little bit, almost,
Oh,
no? These days.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really interact in that space at all.
You have 2 YouTube channels,
Yeah.
but they're not
It's-
about Japan, right?
Yeah. It's not really. It's tangentially related. You know, that I do stuff here, but they're not centered around being here. That I can take it and move it somewhere else if I wanted to. You know, and I mean, I think that's part of I think that's important, having a structure that can be flexible, because if those people try to do something else, it's not going to take off really, you know, unless their personality for some reason is particularly like interesting and engaging.
Thank you. Stop.
in a lot of areas. But if their sole kind of, you know, shtick is, I'm doing this like kind of like ironic or funny thing in Japan, then it doesn't really translate to anywhere else.
Ironic
right?
thing in Japan?
Yeah.
Like what?
Or no, I'm saying, I don't know, not ironic, but like these kind of like shock,
Shock jocks.
yeah, like you know, not clickbait, but
The guy who was recently loud on the train, that
Oh.
kind of thing. I know
Yeah.
there was some scandal where guy came with speakers,
oh yeah,
some shithead,
I
and then
know.
he was really loud on the train and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like being generally behaving in a disrespectful manner.
just but I mean, something that's going to catch people's attention,
yeah.
right?
Logan
Like these
Paul,
kinda-
is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
Or was it-
or you know, but even the smaller people too. That, like Logan Paul, on the other hand, I don't really know much about him, but he's a big enough name that he could go anywhere and still do something. But I'm saying if you have a smaller channel that's focused
on Japan.
on Japan, then you better be doing that here for a long time if you want to make it sustainable and a living. Because as soon as you try to pivot, which is like what I'm kind of trying to do now on one channel, I'm seeing that pivot is very tough. And
But
Instead
the
you-
whole Japan thing
Yeah.
thing all already seems quite oversaturated as
oh,
well.
of course, and you have to be ahead of it, or be niche enough. I think, like if you want to do something now about Japan, then you'd have to do something like, I only go to this like one type of izakaya or whatever, and like review it or something. Like really,
Sounds so tedious.
yeah. And
My
you have to
God.
do it for.
Just get a 9-to-5 job as a paper pusher then.
It's not fun. And that's
It's
the
not
other
fun.
thing is like, I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure some people really like doing it, but for me, I'm like, it's been challenging sometimes with YouTube because you put a lot of time and effort into it, so you want to do the thing that you're going to get most rewarded for, but that also kind of circles back in on itself and becomes a grind. And I have a lot of thoughts about it, but basically now I want to just do YouTube without looking at the analytics and being reactive. I want to just do what I want to do.
Even if you have 12 views.
Yeah, which
per
is,
video.
kind of the situation I'm finding myself in a way, but which is frustrating when you go see the numbers. But the numbers shouldn't dictate, how you feel about it. Because none of these people are making a living just on AdSense. It's like it's sponsorships, it's brand deals, other things that are gonna really help you, along with the AdSense and maybe some Patreon, or it's not just simply you publish a video and you make a living.
You gotta read an ad for a fertilizer in the middle of the video.
There's a lot of moving parts to it.
My next video is me gonna be reading that ad.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And, today's sponsored by.
Today's sponsored by the 18 views come from.
But I find that hopefully it'll be more sustainable if I can just do something that interests me, like your podcast too, that you find it interesting, you have good conversations with people, so it's kind of like self-sustaining. Whereas if you're doing something solely for the views or solely for some ulterior motive, and that doesn't come in, you're going to feel pretty bad,
Also, there's a bit of a paradox in trying to be a content creator in Japan. You come to Japan, this amazing place, and then you're just stuck behind your computer all the time, experiencing none of it, except if it's through a little screen.
And then you have to
filming.
come up with some gimmick or whatever. And,
Yeah.
I don't know. It is very, very challenging and
sometimes.
takes away a lot of what fun you could have.
Yeah.
And the other thing I found, just being someone that I quite regret not starting a YouTube channel. When I first lived here, a lot of people told me do video, do other stuff, and I was like, I know, I'm focusing on photography and manga as well. So I didn't want to add this third thing on top of that. Of course, if I had started then, I would have been able to kind of ride
catch the train.
Wave. Yeah. But maybe I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, and I don't know. It's hard to think about that. Anyways, I waited too much, kind of thinking about how I should do it or whatever, when I should have just started to do it a little bit earlier, even not to necessarily catch a wave, but just because I find that even now, after doing YouTube for 5 years, no, even more than 5 years, maybe 6 or 7 even, it's always iterative. It's I do something and then I look at it and I say, okay, what did I do that worked? What did I do that didn't work? And how can I improve on it? Because if not, you just get trapped in the same, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. So I'm very much a big believer in do the best that you can in the amount of time that you can, and then make notes about what was successful and try to double down on that.
Sounds like homework.
It is, yeah. But I found that when you just turn on the camera, this is different, podcast more freeform, but if you need to
have a thing,
not just have a thing, but present the information in a way that is engaging and tells a story and it's helpful, right? Podcast is different because
the opposite of this.
People but podcasts are different because people like to just listen to the conversation.
You're adorable. You're trying so hard to say something nice about this podcast.
No, but you
don't have to.
Podcasts are different. Just the medium itself is different, because a YouTube video, people click on it because they either want to be entertained or they have some question that they want answered. And you need to deliver on that. But also in a way, you can't just say, the answer is this, and then have 10 minutes of you rambling. You have to wind and weave and give them some of it, and then tell them why it's important and provide context.
Talk about manipulation.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. You heard about some Kuleshov?
What?
Kuleshov and Eisenstein.
Battleship Potemkin.
It all starts there.
Battleship Potemkin. Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
We went to film school.
Yeah.
It shows. Okay.
Yeah.
What about, you've been living here for a while.
Yeah.
You're going to be living here for a while longer?
I don't know. I mean, life
Wow.
changes, right?
What does that mean? Life
like,
changes. Of course life
Just,
changes.
You know, I thought a lot of things about what direction my life was going to go in, and it's changed. So it's hard to like make any solid predictions about it, right?
So you haven't kind of decided either way.
No, and I think like there's a lot of places that have a lot to offer, and
You're
you
just
have to-
lingering.
yeah. No, but you have to kind of weigh the two options. That I think a lot of people want to come here, and it's great. And when you've been here for a while, then you start to think, okay, like, what these are the benefits, these are the downsides, and like, is there somewhere else that's going to give you more of an edge?
Because I've noticed that there's a lot of foreigners that kind of leave around year 2 or 3.
Yeah,
But you're way past that.
yeah.
So there must be some that's appealing to you here.
I mean, it's one of the like most amazing big cities in Tokyo here. It might be very different if I was out in the countryside, you know, but Tokyo just provides you with so much. It's so dense, and once you get used to this, it's kind of hard to leave, I guess, too, in a way.
It's really hot in the summer. I have to
Yeah.
say it's. You know,
Yeah.
I lived in Berlin for a while. The winter's super depressing there. But here, I've experienced a
like, both
depressing,
sides, kinda.
depressing summer for the first time.
Yeah.
Because it's so hot that you have to be on AC inside all the time.
Yeah.
And Tokyo is just a big block of concrete, so the heat is emanating from every
Yeah, I mean,
possible direction.
I feel like
There's no plants in this city, Davey.
no
Let's
plants.
say
We
something.
have some-
Let's say something
some here now.
Yeah, real about Tokyo also. No, Tokyo is super nice, but there's not a lot of green surfaces.
No, I mean there are in like strategic places, but not, not everywhere.
That's a nice euphemism for there aren't any strategic places. Like
In the
200
nice-
kilometers outside of Tokyo,
in
there's
the
a
nice-
strategic place.
in the nice, the expensive areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Around the prime minister's
Yeah.
office.
But yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's nice to experience like lots of seasons, because where I'm from, it's like all summer all the time. So going
Miami
from,
boy.
Yeah, going from now we just kind of got out of winter, like it feels like recently. So it kind of gives you this like new perspective on life. And now
It's
we're
beautiful
going,
rain and 10 degrees.
and now
weather.
now it's going downhill, but then it's going to catch back up again. You know?
And then it's going to be like 45 degrees for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then will be nice in the fall. So you just have to look forward to like the peak seasons.
The peak season, which lasts for like 3 days
Yeah.
each.
But
There's a lot of
Yeah.
sunlight. That's true.
yeah,
There's a lot of light. In Germany, it's different. In north of Germany, it's
No,
like
and,
Mordor.
like, I don't know. I mean, it's also become very normal for me. Like my routines and stuff are kind of like codified. So
You like your
it's-
life here.
yeah, I would say that it's a great place to
And
live.
you have
in
amazing
general.
friends.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that's keeping you afloat.
exactly.
Your friends are so good. You know?
Yeah,
Sometimes people just show in your life, usually from Eastern Europe, and they're like, how does this angel land in my life, you know? So you're kind of right about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that if you find the right groups of people,
Yeah.
there's of course like all kinds of people,
Yeah.
but like it's very fortunate to have such a wide group of people, Japanese and like expats, that we can all kind of get along and like have these interesting conversations that come from different perspectives. I think that's one thing that when I first moved here, I had a lot of difficulty making like deep connections with people. I had a lot of friends, and then like we'd hang out fairly regularly to like play games or
Shoot the
just like
shit.
talk. Yeah, but it was never like I would never like ask them for a favor or whatever. Like it was just like very surface level for many years.
But do you think that's because you need to give it some time, or is it also the particular nature of this place?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you invested
Because
more-
foreigners say a lot of the time that it's really hard to make friends here.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of talk about loneliness,
yeah,
which is probably part of it is because it's such a big place and everybody's busy.
Yeah,
Part of
I
it is
think-
like the language barrier.
yeah.
And there's also maybe a cultural thing.
Yeah, I think-
a lot of Japanese people say they're a little bit afraid of foreigners.
When I
That's a factor.
was first living here and learning the language, there were definitely different moments when it was pretty lonely because I didn't know like what to do. So you kind of like, and there's so many options. Like there's
Yeah.
so much you could do that's kind of like, like I don't know, and then you just kind of like end up wasting a lot of time. And that still happens, of course, but I think if you just put yourself out there a little bit more and go to like these meetups and stuff like that, not all of them, you know, I wouldn't say like just a language exchange meetup.
Yeah, I totally get that.
You're not gonna get.
I tried
like,
everything when I first arrived, all the meetups, and it's just like it doesn't work. You have to find your
But-
tribe.
if you
which
have,
is hard.
Yeah, but if you have like for filmmaking, the Elves meetup is fantastic. If you have like a certain sport that you like, or like Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever it might be,
Or in our case, gambling.
every day, it's a lifestyle. Every time I walk out the door, it's a gamble. But don't just go for the broad one. Go for the like niche thing that you like to do, and then you're gonna find much better friends that are like going to actually have some connection beyond just I speak a language and you speak a language and we want to like interface. You know, it's like no, okay. Like we're interested in this other thing, and then what else do you like and what else do you like? You know.
Yeah, I agree.
So once I started to find like people that we could connect based on like a hobby or something, then
Tokyo
I found-
becomes a bit more pleasant.
yeah, I found much more, you know, kind of deep connections and all that. People that I could rely on, people that I could ask favors for, and of course reciprocate that and all that. But it can be a very kind of lonely city in the sense that there's so much that you just kind of get overwhelmed, and it becomes this like paralyzing effect on the other side. So it's kind of like
Yeah, don't be stuck at home either.
yeah,
right?
it's like extreme on both ends, kind of. And I've definitely been in both places where it's like I'm doing so much that I get kind of burnt out because there's so many opportunities. Like just go.
Yeah, and you
go.
have this fear of missing out if you're not
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to do everything. I get it.
But you know, like life is pretty long, especially if like you live here
What?
for a long time. That
Oh.
there's always something you could do. So like I've kind of, you know, not worried about it as much. Like, oh, you know, I can't go to that event. Well, chances are there's going to be another one, or chances are I'll do something else or whatever, you know. Because if you just become like a slave to that, then are you ever going to do the thing that you actually want to do or that you find fulfilling? But then on the other side, if you're just like stuck at home, you know, editing YouTube videos or whatever, you're not going to get the full breadth of the city either. So, like, or what can you do to like integrate yourself more into it? So can you take your work and do it somewhere else? Can you break out of like your routines or whatever every once in a while? I think sometimes I get it when I show people around the city, like when they come visit. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I remember it's so diverse. I remember it's so like,
I do like playing the expert when
Yeah.
people come around. It's a nice feeling, no?
but especially I think
It's like, oh, this is Banksy right here, guys.
Yeah.
This. Oh, is it?
Pulling
Yeah,
something out
yeah.
of
I'm
your
pretty
ass
sure.
and-
Yeah.
this is some temple. It's really important.
Built in 9th century BC.
yeah.
Yeah.
Renovated 2020.
It's important for the culture here. Just don't touch anything.
But it also helps to get out and like do stuff.
Out of your room.
Yeah. Like
I know what you mean.
on a nice day that, yeah. Today, you know, kind of mid. But
Davey,
yeah.
thank you so much.
Oh my
I'm
God.
getting a bit nippy.
Yeah, me too.
We could like talk about stuff for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna ask you to come back on again.
Great. Well,
Hey, did you try the Viljamovka that I gave you in Akane? The bottle from Slovenia.
no, we haven't. No.
The old Slavic grandpa's
No,
cough
no.
medicine.
We'll try, but
Special occasion. You're saving it for a special
Yeah.
occasion. Lovely.
Yep. We could keep on doing it for another
What's the time?
5:37.
5:30.
It's a
It's
good
been an hour.
Yeah. It went by. How
Dropped
about,
it. Dropped
how
it.
about you?
How about me?
It's all
What?
about me. What about you?
Oh, I just there's this American guy in my life now that I'm kind of trying to get rid of. So I'm kind of, trying to tell him that we're not friends anymore. Between the lines, he's from Miami. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
sounds
still
like
have
a
that kind of
Real one
this
of
task
those,
awaits
you
me,
know.
unpleasant task. If you have any advice what to tell him, that would be nice.
Can you give me another one? Or
Huh?
can you give me another one?
You're out of my life, then. No, thanks again.
Of course. Now the fun starts.